Hello F11 members, and welcome back to part 2 of the post-production video tutors for issue 90, July 2019. So you may have read already the feature in this month's issue written by David Constantine, F11 member, about his one-to-one session with me where we started late afternoon and shot right through the night on the to follow up with the dawn on the longest day of the year. It was some night, some experience actually, and we were really quite fortunate with the lighting conditions as well, because at dawn on the longest day, 21st of June, we had this wonderful dawn session overlooking the Blackmore Vale. Now I've made a panorama here, which I'm really quite pleased with, stitched panorama. And I'll just show you that full screen. So it was just a wonderful morning, and that's at a really long lens perspective there. But having done a panorama in part 1 of the fundamentals of post-production video tutorials this month, I thought we'd just talk through another shot here that I'm going to work on. This one, really early in the morning this was shot, and I'm going to go through the production on it, not having reversed this at all. But I always think that what's important is before you wade in and start using sliders and making adjustments, you contemplate what you are and what you're not going to do to a picture. So it's been imported. On import, it has certain settings applied because I use a preset on import, which I'll talk you through in a minute. And I've also put in here the information, the caption information. So that's really important to do right at the beginning now. So let's go into the develop module, and you see it's come in with just a touch of vibrance, a teaspoonful of vibrance added, and some sharpening, my standard sharpening. Okay, that's applied to all images. So let's work out what we're going to do to this picture. And so clearly I need to address things like the blacks and the whites. Shot at 400 millimeters, I'm slicing through a fair bit of atmosphere, so there's a little bit of haze. So actually the very first thing I'm going to do is just experiment with taking a bit of haze out. And just by sliding the de-hazer to the right. Now the de-hazer is a wonderful tool, but it does tend to cause the colours to go, particularly the blues in my experience, to become a bit extreme, a bit yucky. So nevertheless, that's given a fair bit of enhanced the contrast of the image. And I'm going to now come to adjust my blacks. I'm going to come back on the de-haze a touch because I always get nervous if there's too much dialed in there. I'm going to start with just 25 on the de-haze, and I'm going to come back to my black slider now, hold down the Alt key, come to the left until I start clipping my blacks there. So I can afford to go minus 19 on my blacks, minus 20. Same with my whites, adjust my whites. There's a few bright lights there, shining, which don't concern me at all. And I'm going to go that far until I start clipping plus 50s-ish, until I start clipping in the shadow, the highlights in the sky there. Already that's enhanced the picture quite substantially. If I come down here, you can see if I click on these two Y's next to each other, it shows me the before and the after. Just by enhancing the contrast, we've made some a great improvement to the picture. But let's come back to the loop view now, and I want to now just selectively make some adjustments here. I want to bring in that sky a bit, so I'm going to use my grad tool to do that. Hold down the shift key, bring the grad tool down to about the top half of the image here. And now I'm going to pull back my highlights. That's brought in that sky quite a bit. And pull back my exposure a little bit. And can you see though that actually I'm not so sure about those highlights. Let's bring them back. It's making them a bit yucky, isn't it? Like I say, I haven't rehearsed this at all. I don't know. I'm working through my decisions as I would do normally if I were processing this image myself, making decisions as I go. Okay, let's look at the whites then. In this selected area of the picture, just hold down the Alt key there. Yeah, I can't go far before I start clipping in the skies. Let's look at the blacks though, and I can pull the blacks back quite a bit, which does a lot to the picture, I think. And now I'm going to click on Done, and what I'm going to do is look at the bottom half of the picture. So I'm going to use the grad tool again, hold down the Shift key, pull the grad up from, helps if you select the grad tool, doesn't it? Pull this grad up from the bottom. And now I'm going to look at my whites again, hold down the Alt key. And that's really helping that bottom half of the picture, isn't it? I can go all the way, virtually to 100 without clipping any highlights. Just enlist this little highlight there, you can just see one red blinky, but that doesn't worry me at all. I'm going to click on Done there. Now let's just look at the picture. I'm going to come down and I'm going to add a touch here of contrast. So if I come to my point curve here and I go medium contrast, now the whole picture has had its contrast adjusted radically. I've now got a bit of clipping of my blacks here. So let's just come back on those blacks a touch. And I think it's worked well, but all of these adjustments have made those colors go too far over the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out the vibrance. That's better, but I'd say those blues are still too much. So what I want to do is, I think this is the effect of the de-haze tool, which does do this to the blues. So I'm going to come down here in the color, HSL color. HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. So if I click on the drop down menu and go to the saturation, I'm just going to pull back the saturation on the blue a touch. How far? I'd say round about -15. And I'd say that's brought those blues back to a manageable level. I didn't really want to desaturate the other colors. In fact, there really are only two colors in the picture, blue and this pinkiness in the sky. But nevertheless, I've just desaturated the blue. I'm happy with that. Let's just come up here, and I think the image needs just a touch more brightening. So I'm just going to come onto the exposure here, give it about plus. It's really difficult to get accurate with this, so I'm just going to highlight the numbers and then use my keys on my keyboard to make incremental adjustments. And I'd say that that is the finished article. What do you reckon? So let's look at it before and after. On the left, straight out the camera, pretty wishy-washy, but all the information is there. On the right, enhanced, predominantly with contrast. But I think it looks believable. So I think that's worked well. Okay, so just remember, always send in your suggestions about what you would like to see in your future post-production video tutorials. We love hearing from you. Thank you.